Hi, everyone. Welcome.
To average age groupers.
We'll get this intro one of these times. I don't know. Maybe at the end of a year of doing it. We are outside. Wisconsin decided to not be winter anymore. So here we are.
Yeah, so we today are missing Maggie. She is traveling today, so unable to do this recording. But today we're gonna talk to Aaron, my husband, fellow better than average age grouper, about his endurance story. We reference him a lot on the podcast, so now we're gonna tell his story.
Hello, welcome. I'm Aaron,
Above
of
average age grouper.
average age grouper, I guess. Yeah, been following along the pod for a while, and I guess today would be the day for me to tell my story.
I did ask him yesterday, Aaron, do you want to be on the podcast? And I was greeted with, okay. And then I promptly had to re-ask him so that he could have a better response for us. And he said,
Am I allowed to say this?
yeah.
Fuck yeah.
So here he is. So you, similar to Holly, started in horses. Ish.
Yeah.
Well, so I think you should tell your story from like high school because you did some sporty things in high school, and that was maybe your pre-endurance, like pre me and the horses, right? So maybe we should start there, and you could talk about that a little bit, and then
I think there's a few things that tie in with that early on. Grew up on kind of a hobby farm and worked for a dairy farmer. And so on the like endurance side of things, friends would ask me like, hey, when are you done with work? And I'd be like, I don't know. It kind of depends on what other than normal stuff needs to take care of. All that to say is it's not a clock in, clock out kind of job. You work until you're done, which is in retrospect, looking back, kind of endurance. Like you just go until it's done. You don't clock out when you're tired. I guess there's that. But I ran cross country for a couple of years in junior high, track 1 year in high school as a freshman. I wrestled for 3 years, sophomore, junior, senior. And then I think I took about a 20-year hiatus from sports. Is that kind of what you were trying to get me to set up?
yes, I was trying to get you to give a little of the background, but in the 20 years that you were not doing sports, we met, we got married, we ran the horse business, you rode horses.
Yeah.
Did, again, general farm related work, which has an element of endurance and strength to it. Anything you would add to that chapter?
No, I think that's about it. Like, that's about it to that.
So you both left, well, you still had horses in Blue Mounds.
Yeah.
So like what was your like first pivot to getting back into endurance sports? What was the first thing you decided to do?
I guess as part of Holly's story, the friends from work that got her into like doing 5K fun runs, and Holly and I would go together, or the friends from work, the four of us would go, and I would see him at the start line and then see him at the finish. And then eventually I started running with them. And then at one point, one of them challenged me because how fast could you actually run if you tried?
Well, wait, the way I remember this story is we went to do a Shamrock Shuffle, the four of us all together. And the Shamrock Shuffle is, I don't know if it's still this way today, but back then, because this would have been like 2016-ish, it started on State Street and went down and then straight up Observatory.
Like every race Madison seems to plan is straight up observatory.
Yes. And so we are, the three of us, me and my two coworkers are like dying going up Observatory. And he's like doing his thing that he does when he's like
La la yapping.
Yes. And he's like jumping over cones and skipping and whatever. And so our friend Mo was like a little bit annoyed at this, right? While we were all like dying going up the hill. And she's like, so what if you just like actually ran this thing? And so then he just took off and left us.
See ya.
I think we went to a small 5K after that, and I was in the top 5 overall. Like, it was small, but I PR'd. It still is my PR for a 5K to this day after that challenge from Mo. So shout out to Mo for,
Forcing you to your potential.
yeah, something like that.
Well, you went on because we did the running thing for a couple of years. You ran multiple 10Ks, 5Ks, where you did then win your age group sometimes or place in the top 3 or like, podium or whatever for some of those, like the Haunted Hustle
Eh,
and they used to do this music. They called it the Music Mile. Did you ever do that one in Madison?
No.
They had like it was a 5K and
it was a music mile and 5K.
yeah, but every mile or every half mile
yeah.
along that course, there was a band, like a playing music.
Oh, that's so fun.
Yeah.
I forgot I won that.
Yes.
Minor details. Okay, so started running. When did you pivot to decide you wanted to do a triathlon?
We had started going to a gym that Holly's talked about before, and the gym owner used to have a rather large triathlon team in Madison. And she was like, you should try doing a triathlon. You should think about this. And at which point I was like, yeah, that sounds great. And I immediately realized after trying to swim on my own that I couldn't swim. Couldn't make it from one end of the pool to the other. The swim coach came out. I got a couple lessons. And the first one, she's like, okay, spear drill. And I'm like, what is that? I had no idea. And then I was trying to do some stuff. And you could just kind of see look on her face like, oh, this is going to take some work. So then I had to learn how to swim. So I took several lessons, and there were days I'd go to the pool and sit in the car for 40 minutes trying to hype myself up to go in to swim 500 to 700 yards. That would also take me 40 minutes. And it's kind of interesting for me to look back at that because that's in my master's classes now, it's barely a warm up.
Well, and
much is
you're in like
difference.
you're now in one of the fastest lanes in masters as well.
Yeah.
So like the jump too of like learning how to swim, not wanting to go in the pool, and now you're like one of the fastest swimmers.
Yeah, I guess going to a new master's, I'd not so much, but that's all right.
What?
Different class, but all the same, it was a journey. And even after kind of learning how to swim, I think the first 3 or 4 sprint triathlons I didn't even put my face in the water. I just what do they call it? Like a
Tarzan
swim.
crawl.
Yeah. I couldn't put my face in the water at all.
Well, I think you should tell the story of your first triathlon, which was the Sugar River Tri
Oh yeah.
in Belleville. And that would have been
17.
that was 2018. Did you do that before I ran the fall 50s?
Maybe. I don't
Whatever.
know.
Okay, whatever. It was in that neighborhood, 2017, 2018. Anyway, but I think you should tell that whole story because, I mean, that's very relatable.
Had you done an open water swim before you were doing this try?
I don't know. I mean, it was a sprint, so it was 400 yards. I swam out. Well, someone was trying to give me advice, and I was looking at them like, I'm not going to listen to you. And really, it was, I'm so scared. I don't know what to say about taking your advice because I was very much so just trying to keep myself together because I had committed to this and I was going to go do it. And that first swim was almost 17 minutes to go 400, and it was also raining that day. I remember that, and I kept thinking they're going to cancel this and I'm going to get out of it. Like I can start over. Like I can be like, I didn't DNF. They canceled the race, but I got out of it. And I tell the story about when I got within like 10 or 15 yards to where I could touch the bottom again and come out of the water. I'm like, I swear I'm crying, but you can't tell because my face is wet from the water. Oh, and it's still raining. And I come out.
Were you crying tears of joy?
It was kind of a mixed emotion at that
All
juncture.
of the feelings were happening at that moment.
Yeah. So I get out, I run over, and I didn't have a top on when I put my wetsuit on. So then I was trying to get a top on that was like a quarter zip. It wasn't a full zip or like, so I couldn't, I'm sitting in transition and
Trying to get spandex on a wet
Yeah.
arms.
over my whole, wet self. Yeah. And I've got my coach on the fence going, what are you doing? How come you didn't have that on? I'm like, you didn't tell me. I think, and then actually Mo's husband, so Mo, the challenge of go run faster, her husband had said, when you get out on the road, be careful of the paint. And if I hadn't done that, I think I would have wiped out coming out of the parking lot. I think I rode fairly well. I came in and I kind of did an okay 5K. And I back up. Like I had entered in novice because I had never done a triathlon at all before. And I was second by a minute 26. My coach said, you never get to be novice again. I was like, but
why?
My swim was 17 minutes. And she's like, no.
So for context, also, he was probably flying by people on the bike. Like the number of times you probably had to say, on your left, on your left, on your left.
The number of times I should have, let's be honest, at that point, I don't know that I had done any group rides, and there was very little etiquette at that point because I didn't know any better.
Yeah.
I think I took that was in August, and I didn't do another one until I think June or July the next year. It was almost a year before I did another one, and I thought, hey, I'm going to do just fine. I did the Verona Triathlon, and I got the swim down to 18 minutes.
You're missing like a whole bunch of like this is about triathlon in this instance, but in between there, because that was the only one you did with that particular coach.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
So that's why I think that was 2018. So then in 2019, you switched to a new coach. So then did you do the Verona before we did Chicago Marathon?
I feel like he did because like I knew of you guys doing Chicago and like was aware that he had done. I feel like you did do Verona the year of Chicago.
So back to your Verona Triathlon. I was like, if I was just getting the timeline correct.
So for a long time in that particular body of water, there was a lot of trauma associated because I swear I thought I was going to drown. I'm like, there aren't enough safety people here. They were all over the place. It was just all in my head.
At Fireman's?
Yeah, at Fireman's.
This is the same, for reference, this is the place Holly and I swam back and forth on the sandbar. So, like, it's not a large body of water.
It's not. If you swim all the way to the outer edges, you might, and do an entire loop, you might get 600 yards.
Yeah.
Like if you...
Small body.
It is, yeah, it's not very big. That was another one. I think I got out of the water, got on the bike, and probably still finished top 5 or 7 in my age group at that point. Yeah, it's on. And then I think the one after that was Door County.
Cambridge, I thought we did.
Yeah, but yes. It got canceled.
But you got a medal.
Yeah, I got a medal. Never, I'd say I didn't get wet, but it poured.
Did they just ship out the medals?
No.
They gave them away at the end because it was storming. And then they couldn't keep the roads. Like, we had to wait so long for the storms.
Okay.
They couldn't keep the roads open or closed, whatever.
We just hung out in the shelter because they wouldn't let us get our bikes because of the storm. Wouldn't let us go to transition. So they just started handing out food and medals. It was like...
Here's a banana and a medal.
But yeah, there were sandwiches, and bananas, and medals, and snacks, and here's your shirt and all the things just for showing up and letting your bike get wet.
I mean, what else are they going to do with it?
Right. There was, save it from the next year.
So then Door
County, which that one I technically DNF'd. That was because I got out and I swam, and that water was, at the time to me, was unswimmable, but I was going to give it a go and see what I could do with it. And I think I made it probably 300 yards or so, 275.
Is this the same year I backstroked the entire swim? Yes.
I didn't see you out there.
It was beautiful, ask. But I do think like there is a part of, for anyone that's like had to learn how to swim and starts this sport, like the swim can be so challenging one race and then so easy the next. Like it just sometimes never feels like you've got it figured out. And that water was terrible that year.
It was rough. There's a concrete pier out there. and the water was bouncing off of it. And so really the only turn buoy out there, the water was coming to like a chatter peaks because the waves were coming against each other.
But the thing with Door County, when they
Right.
did that race, you could be pulled from the water and they still let you.
Yeah, you pull
Continue
you
the
from the
race.
water. They bring you to the swim exit. Essentially, they take your timing chip. They allow you to finish the race, but you don't get a time. So I did that race, and I remember in that, do I mail it in because like I can't get a time, or do I just try to see what my bike run splits would be after that? And I think I went back and forth on that the whole bike and run. But that's what, an 18-mile bike, and it is 80 feet of elevation.
Pancake flat.
It is flat,
Yeah.
flat. Same with the run, but it's super flat. But I did a couple more triathlons later that year inside of the Wisconsin Tri Series, and I think I got swim down to 12 minutes. So it started to come around. I think then Chicago. Before we did Chicago, I also somewhere in there did Run Madtown, like the half marathons. I know I jumped straight in triathlon there, but
Yeah,
somewhere in there.
we did those half marathons where we did the fall one and the Run Madtown before you started doing triathlon. So that would have been, we did more of that in 2017. And then I think in 2018 was where you started doing more triathlon stuff. Because we also did, there used to be the Cap City Tri, and they had a duathlon, and we did
Oh,
the
yeah.
duathlon the year that it was like so cold and rainy.
Windy.
I remember that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I never did that race, but I remember that specific year that it was terrible outside.
Yeah, so I did the duathlon of a run, bike, run, and I ran in what I thought was too much clothes, and I was warm, so I took off layers and got on the bike it couldn't have been more than about 40 degrees in essentially a tri kit. And I don't know how many times I'm like, no one's in that building up there and pulling off, and I'm just going to sit there and try to warm up. And then I just kept pedaling. And at one point there was an officer directing traffic, and I came down the hill and made a left-hand turn on a T intersection. And they looked at me and they're like, "Are you okay?" And I just looked away and just kept riding around the corner. I'm like, I'm not getting pulled off of this. Obviously, if they're asking me if I'm okay, I was not looking good. I just kept pedaling, rain, wind, like it was cold and wet that day. And then with that being a duathlon, it was a 24-mile bike, which isn't that, but I wasn't dressed properly for that. I got back into transition. My hands were so cold and my head wasn't working. I couldn't get my helmet unbuckled. And one of the volunteers looked at me like they were going to
About to pull you.
about to pull me, and I just turned away and kept fumbling with the clip on my helmet, hoping that they wouldn't notice that I couldn't get it off. Actually, when they looked at me, I turned away and I took my shoes off because I knew I could get the shoes off, and that would give me just enough time to like try to regroup so I can get my helmet off. And then, yeah.
At least you didn't like attempt the run with your helmet on.
No, I knew I wouldn't get at that point, that was a red flag that something wasn't right.
Well, we have seen people like just forget.
Well, no,
The number of people that have like started a bike ride with a swim cap on still.
I've never done that.
The one thing I'll say about that race is there was a triathlon. So it was a triathlon and a duathlon. And there was at least one person who was doing the triathlon who got on their bike with their wetsuit on. It was so cold they just left their wetsuit on, biked in their wetsuit.
I mean, I will say that swim cap on the head was the year of the torrential downpour for Ironman, so it might have been on purpose, but
Could be. So yeah, that was before my swim days even started. So that would have been before Sugar River even. But yeah, we did somewhere in there, 2017. We did Run Madtown or the Madison half. That's my half marathon PR. But then I started branching out in other sports, and I'm just not as fast in any singular thing anymore, especially running. But then did I convince myself to do the Madison half or Madison full marathon? Or how did
we ran Chicago in 2019. And then in
No, I had to run one of the Madison full marathons ahead of that in order to get the corral that I was in for Chicago. Because I had to
I don't
send them.
remember because you did the Madison. It doesn't really matter, but you did the Madison Marathon several times. Yeah.
I think 3 times now. But yeah, that's another November race in Wisconsin. So it started and it was 30 some degrees. And at some point it started snowing. And yeah, we subject ourselves to these things.
Yeah. Living in the Midwest, it's either 40 and snowing or 75 and hot.
Steamy.
There's no in between.
Yeah. Chicago Marathon started, lots of vibes of that. Highly recommend if you ever get the chance. It was a lot of fun going through all the different areas of town. There was never a spot where there were spots where there were fewer spectators, but there were not a spot where there weren't spectators. And that was a lot of fun. I'd say, I think the most challenging part of that whole thing was trying to find each other when it was done, which I think you've talked about before.
I mean, I think that's like any of those races. Thankfully, with running races, most people have their phones, so you can somehow try and contact each other.
Yeah, I mean, you can contact each other after. Now, I mean, that was before the Find My Friends,
Yeah.
so you couldn't tell where people were.
Right.
I mean, but what else?
At what point did you decide you wanted to go longer distance triathlon?
I guess when we joined the other local triathlon team, and we just started hanging out with them and there was pool swims to begin with, and I'd show up and
Was this pre-COVID pool
yeah,
swims?
this is pre-COVID pool swims, and in order to keep up with literally anyone, I had to wear flippers. So I got through that to get warm enough. I got outside. I borrowed a wetsuit from another teammate and friend of ours, and I showed up to the first open water swim, only to have the coach look at me and she goes, "Come here," and looks at me and I go, "What?" She goes, "Your wetsuit's on inside out." I had no idea how to put it on.
I vividly remember, and I don't know if it was like if it was your first open water swim, I was doing water support, and like I remember Aaron being in his fins because everyone swam so fast, but I was like, okay.
And after I took the wetsuit off and then put it back on again, everybody jumped in the water, and I looked at that and I'm like, nope. That was at the boat ramp at Olin. And then I remember one of the coaches looked at me and goes, "Hey, you okay?" I said, "I don't know about this. Is there somewhere where I can always touch the bottom?" And he's like, "Yeah, there's a beach just over around the way." So I went over there. I think I remember doing spear drill back and forth across the swim beach area for an hour. And I would just spear drill and then put my face in the water. And then, because I'm like, as soon as my face touched the water, I'm like, I'm drowning. And then hips would drop and just make it worse.
I mean, it's open water is a different beast.
It's also when they started swimming, that was like 5:30, 5:40. It was like dark. The sun wasn't up yet when we started doing that.
Right. You're like in the water at 5:15 and the sun has like barely come over the
it's dark
horizon.
It's dark enough in the water. I don't need it to not have the sun up.
Yeah. Some of those mornings you're like, what creepy crawly thing's gonna come out of this water?
We swam there for a while and I just got comfortable with the water, and it was the right environment for me to learn how to swim. And I remember then transitioning, because that's where the Wisconsin half was at that time. And then, so sometime after June, whatever that race was, because we didn't swim there that many times because the water wasn't warm enough that much. You couldn't get into the water that much before the race because of the temperature.
Yeah, the temperature and the timing.
So once that was done, the race was over, then we moved over to Law Park where Ironman Wisconsin is. We swam from there. And I remember kind of the same thing. I would swim where I could touch the bottom, but I would swim just kind of like float around and try to move around. And the first day that I swam around the first buoy that was like maybe 30 yards from shore and back, and how excited I was about that. And so I'm like, I'm going to do it again. And my dad did it like 3 times, and it was like breakthrough. And then I'm like, I'm a grown adult. I'm excited about swimming around the closest buoy to shore. But I'm like, you know what? I'm going to take this win. I'm going to take this win.
Small wins. Yeah.
And the only thing I can think is that I wanted to say, like, the thing that was in the way was my fear of the water. Like I could bike and I could run. And I think I was pretty good at that. The first team ride, I knew John. And so I was and that was loosely, but I caught up with him. I rode with him for a little bit. Or no, I saw him when we started. And then of course, John, and he took off because he's the fast bike rider. And then we got going, rode from Olin kind of out to Oregon. And I passed one of the coaches and he comes up, he's like, "Hey, hi, this must have been before the swim." Because he didn't really know who I was at that time. It was the first outdoor team thing that I had signed up for or shown up for. Anyway, he's like, "Hey, welcome to the team, blah, blah, blah." I was like, not realizing where I was, like, kind of figure out you're not like placed in the group of dynamics of like, but
like who rides similar speeds to you?
right. And then I got far enough forward in the group that it got really separated and I didn't know the course. And suddenly I was lost in the middle of the Wisconsin countryside because I was losing the person in front of me, but I was far enough in front of the person behind me that I didn't know that I had missed a turn or not. And luckily I turned around and came back and then started seeing people and then got back on course, got picked up and then I just rode with somebody and brought back in. But it was an experience. Anyway, that was a side shoot back, but back to I feel for me though, like the biggest journey was the swim.
Well, so we joined that team in 2019. You did a few more tries in 2019. We ran the Chicago, but we ran the Chicago Marathon that fall, and that winter, you were like, "I'm gonna do Ironman in 2020," and had kind of put that like out there of like 2020 is gonna be like the year that I kind of go all in on this, and then. So you and I were like going to one of the gyms on the west side of Madison and swimming, just the two of us. We would do these like Friday night go swim together dates. We probably did that like December, January, February, and then COVID.
And I think so that year before I was riding with everyone, the group that was doing Ironman Wisconsin. So I had started my base building for the bike ride and really the swims and runs. So I was training for it without actually having the race on the schedule. And then officially signed up for it in, like Holly said, in 2020, COVID hits. Then it's like, oh, well, it's going to be this race. Oh, it's going to be this race. No, we're going to they were canceling them last minute. So we were almost going to do Muncie.
Like
Muncie got deferred to Des Moines.
Any race that like popped up, we were so hopeful. It'd be like, it's not going to get canceled. We're going to do this. We're going to go to this race. Because everyone just wanted to do something, but then it'd be like a month out. And it's like, nope, actually it's canceled. So did you race Des Moines in 2020?
21.
Right. Nothing happened in 2020.
2020 was the Lost Tri Series year.
I just couldn't remember if something eventually happened, but.
Well, we would get really close to your point.
Right.
Like everybody signed up for Muncie because we're like, oh, it's going to be Muncie. We're going to do Muncie. And I think there was a brief moment too when they were like, oh, they'll still do Door County. Like there was still like these hopeful things and they just didn't happen. So I think the weekend that would have been Door County, so it was the Lost Tri Series, but one of them was a 70.3 simulation and you did that. And that would have been, that was the first time doing the equivalent distance of a 70.3.
That was the one that you didn't do. I remember, swimming like 6 laps.
So many laps in Fireman's Park.
So many laps, at least 5. And at that point, it was over like 4th of July, I think is when it was that weekend or that time frame. Then it was go ride the course, a loop, part of a stem and back. And I think, did it start raining that one? No?
No.
Because we rode almost all the way back into Madison. I don't even remember how many loops. I think we're set up to be like 5K loops.
Like, around that block.
Yeah. I think it was like 6 loops.
But
and
the
I was
other
like, I'm gonna beat John. And I don't remember if that happened. John just kept, I don't remember. It doesn't matter.
Aaron has no competitive nature in his body.
Nope.
Not a soul.
0. I don't know.
So that was 2020. The interesting part I think about 2021 too is like so many people had registered for races. Like everyone was racing every weekend in 2021 because all of these races had deferred. I feel like, was that not the year you did so many races?
You did a
Or
bunch,
was,
but I think for 2020, the one race you did do was the Big Swell because they pulled the buoys. Even though the race itself was canceled, they still put the buoys out and you could go on your own
and swim
that. And you swam the marathon, not the marathon, the Ironman
Just-
swim distance that day.
I swam, and they're like, there's no water support that we're providing. There was none of that. So I think we did have, there were a couple of people in kayaks that were unofficial, that just kind of watching people.
Yeah.
I swam out and back, and I could have been done at 1.2 miles. And I just was like, you know what? I'm comfortable. And I just rolled in the water from my back to, freestyle swim, and swam back out to the far buoy, and I turned around and I came back. And that was the first 2.4 mile swim I remember doing. I don't think that I pushed it, but it was an hour 38 or something like that. And it kind of surprised me.
I mean, that used to be such a great event. Missed that one. It was put on by one of our local pros that lives here, but events are hard to run. Okay, so we're now in 2021. Your Wisconsin full gets deferred to 2021, and it's in September.
Yeah.
Same weekend as the half.
Yeah. Same
Same
day
day
as
as
the
the
half
half.
that year.
Well, you should do Des Moines really quick before we move on to
Our
first-
favorite race.
Yeah, so Muncie in 2020, because everybody signed up for Muncie when it was still open before it got closed
Yep.
or canceled. So the Muncie race deferral went to Des Moines.
I don't know how many details I want to go through on this one. Holly and I went down there. The team went there. Holly and I stayed on our own, and I was trying to figure out the logistics of a travel triathlon that was a half Ironman.
Well, and like not even your first travel half. This race logistically was terrible.
You couldn't park close. Transition wasn't even close to swim in or swim out.
No, the bike had like 6 hairpin turns.
No, it still does, but yeah. Well, no, it was more than it was more than that, because it was two
Yeah.
loops, air quote loops of that.
I don't remember anything like outstanding about the run, but
That was 4 loops. 3
yeah,
loops.
it was so
was-
many weird things.
It was 3 loops around Goose Lake or whatever it is. Or no, whatever that is.
Whatever that body of water
Gray's Lake
was.
in Des Moines, and then you ran downtown over the
Yeah.
river in downtown, and you finished downtown, and the finish was you had to get bussed back to
Transition.
and transition was still half or 3/4 of a mile from as close as you could park, unless you had VIP status.
So like logistically terrible. It's your first time traveling, and then we have a storm. So like
Yeah,
everything's delayed.
They postponed the start of the race the night before,
Correct.
and there was like, stay tuned, we'll let you know. And to me, I was like, sweet, they're going to cancel the swim. Nope. Full swim distance. They cut they shortened, they cut the bike in half.
Which is just so weird. But so did that race.
Yep.
Was anything astounding for you?
It was your first Ironman event.
It was, it was my first Ironman event. It was hard. Like, it's my first Ironman event, but it actually wasn't a 70.3 because it was half
distance. Yeah.
It was half the bike.
And didn't they cut the run too?
No,
just the bike. Okay.
Just the bike. And it was stupid hot and humid.
I do remember that.
And the number of people I saw cramping because like sweat and salt and all that business. But
so that was Des Moines.
Yeah.
And then that's
Door County. Again.
Door County.
Yep. Because Des Moines was in June, Door County's in July. I went to Door County, and that was my first half iron distance, full complete. Like, it was a full 70.3 miles. That surprised me. That water doesn't change much, but So I did that swim, got on the bike. That's another 2-loop course. So I think that was my first official 70.3 distance. I think I was like a 5:25, I want to say. So it was solid. I think I was top 5 or 7 in it's how many people were overall in the entire, maybe 1,000 across
Yeah, I
all
feel
age
like it
groups.
sells. Yeah, they cap it at I think 1,000.
Yeah, that was,
That was a good race for you. It was
Yeah.
sort of like the first time to be like, oh, I can really do this. There's like nothing weird that happened. It was wetsuit legal, so you got to like there was no question about that. Right. So like all of those things, which then led to you doing Ironman Wisconsin in September, but those were your two like lead-ins to that.
I did those two races. That was the other thing about Des Moines, is that the water temp was like 78, 80 degrees, something like that. And so I wasn't going to be able to wear my wetsuit. I was like, I guess I'm not racing. And then like, no, there's a party wave in the back. You just wear your wetsuit. You start after. You do not have
You're
Not
just
a-
not eligible for
awards or
points, right?
slots
Yeah.
for worlds. Or to which I was like, I don't really care. And
Right.
so,
At this point in your journey, Worlds was not on your
no, not on my radar,
radar
at all.
at all.
I don't know that I understood what it was at that point by any means. And like, as hot as it was with a wetsuit, that swim was 40 minutes. Again, one of those, oh, I'm okay. Like I had plenty of time ahead of the cutoff. I just want the security, like my wetsuit security blanket, I guess. Ironman Wisconsin. Trying to think who I started with. This had to be somebody with the team that was of similar pace. And we got out to, it's 2 loops in a big rectangle. And I swam out and around and I was doing pretty good. And then you come back against the terrace and the waves were bouncing off the terrace. And that kind of threw me because they're kind of bumping a little funny. Came around the first turn buoy again, and a wave picked up someone behind me and dropped them on top of me. And which in the moment, I'm like, what is wrong with this person that they're literally swimming over the top of me and not getting off me? In years later, retrospect, I'm like, I bet you they were scared to death too, because they knew that they couldn't, like they're now on top of someone.
Right. In the water.
Yeah. So that really helped my swimming fear issues. Not at all. I got off over to the side and grabbed a water support, and I don't know how I managed to, I wanted to finish. At that point, I had swam half of it, and the water support in Madison is incredible. There's 100 plus kayak paddle
You
boards.
can't swim farther than 50 yards without a new kayak being there.
Yeah. I kind of regrouped, and then I swam a little ways and I got to another one and I just kept swimming. And then I started to panic, and I got to and there was somebody on a paddleboard, and this person came over and I'm like just started sputtering about, like, I'm panicking. Like, I don't know if I can do this, but and they're like, so how's it, what's your name? I'm like, what? Huh? What do you mean? What's my name?
Right. They're just trying to calm you down.
Yeah. And let me tell you, it worked, because I'm like, I'm Aaron, but this, and this, and this, and this. And the person's like, what did you say your name was again? And I said it, and then it started to click. I'm like, oh, that threw me just enough. And I went through the one far turn, which is the timing. I don't know if they still do it.
They don't. They changed it. The timing arch is
Oh,
at like the first, after your first lap. It's now headed out to your second lap. They used to have this timing arch like on the back corner of it. It was very odd, but yeah.
So not only does everybody bunch at the corner, you also had to bunch to everybody go underneath the timing arch.
Yeah.
So I made it through that corner and got around to the other side. And then knowing that there was just the backstretch in was 1,000 yards, 800 yards, something like seven, whatever it was. I was like, oh, like it started to click, like, I'm going to finish this. I just need to get through this. And I get through that, and I get out of the water, and I think it was an hour 32. I was about right. And run up the helix, get on the bike, get going, whatever, that whole business. And so get off the bike at exactly 6 hours, and then get on to run. And at that point I thought like, oh, I'm so far ahead. Like I'm doing great. Cause that was the year that Adam did it and John did it. And other John, I think, was that year. Maybe not. No, he wasn't around yet. Anyway, like I think the second one from our team off the bike. So I'm like,
Feeling amazing.
I'm feeling amazing. And then because I hadn't taken enough nutrition on the bike, I was so like, get off the bike. How fast can I go? Get going. And suddenly I started to fade. And then I started getting passed by all the people that passed me, or that I passed on the bike. And that's when you start learning about the other discipline of triathlon, and which is nutrition and water and salts and electrolytes. And just kept going. I think that was 4:15-ish for the run, and an overall of, I don't know, just under 12 and a half hours for my first Ironman.
Which is a solidly impressive.
I finished in the light,
Correct.
which is, yeah.
So after that Ironman, though, that was because in 2021 they did, because of COVID being the year before, and like I'm guessing it had to do with like permits and stuff for the city of Madison. They combined the half and the full onto the same day in 2021. And so our friend Rich did the half that day and qualified for Worlds on that half. So I don't know, maybe a month. I don't even think it was a month later. Whenever there was like a post Ironman get together for the team, and he was like, oh yeah, I took my slot to Worlds. Because the other thing that was funky about COVID time and like 2021 is they didn't do awards after the events. They would email you if you got a slot. And then, so he accepted an email slot to Worlds. And that was then like, okay, well, we want to go then if they're going. So that started like down the journey of us like actually figuring out like how to travel for races, how to pick races. But so we then, we talked about this on one of our earlier episodes about going to Blue Ridge and how terrible it was for like a spectating Sherpa course. But it was at Blue Ridge that you qualified for 70.3 Worlds for the first time. So I think you should tell that story. We're probably going to have you back on again because we're going to run out of time to get through your entire story. But I do think that you should share. Like,
I feel like we should summarize this episode with your
Ridge
explanation of Blue Ridge.
Yes, and then we can come back and do like a Worlds episode or something at some point. But you should talk about like everything that went into Blue Ridge, your experience of Blue Ridge, and the qualification process, because I think that's a worthwhile story. And then we can wrap for today.
Well, you chose Blue Ridge specifically because of the timing of it and like essentially the field in a sense, like the odds of you getting a spot were higher than a lot of other races. And so that's why.
Yes. Looked at the timing of it. It's a hilly course, and I'll come back to that in a second. I'm pretty good at hills. And so I felt that would be a course that would suit me with the elevation that's in it.
Right.
So I figured that with the elevation, that type of course would suit me well.
The dogs are the special guests nobody ever realizes are here.
It fit with timing to be able to qualify for the race for Worlds in 2022 that Rich had taken a slot for. And that race is in June, the beginning of June in Roanoke, Virginia, or was. It's only was like 3 years. But I hadn't looked at the logistics of it. I had no idea what was going on with it. Come to find out it's a reservoir swim. You can only swim in the reservoir that singular day of the year. So they had special permits for all of that. It was a 2 transition event, which I had no idea, understood what that is. So I had to start practicing where I'd swim, run out, go to a car, get the bike, and then have my run stuff set up someplace else, and then ride the bike back to the run stuff, drop that off, and then go for the run, just to get used to not having everything all in one place. but that was a lot of elevation training, a lot of hills. And then I started talking to another individual that was on the team, and he was like, you understand that's 4,000 or 3,800 feet, but 2,200 of it is one hill. And I was like, what? And then I actually looked at the elevation map, and it is all of that. It is 6 miles and 2,200 feet of elevation or whatever it was. And I was like, oh, I got this. So I'm flying along at 20 something miles an hour up to the base of that hill. And I remember 5 or 6 miles of 5 to 6 miles an hour at a ridiculous grade and switchbacks all the way up. So when you're looking over to your left across a lane, because it switches back to the left, and you look up and you just look up, and then you see the road going back the other direction. And then above that, you see feet going the other direction back. And then they label the hills. This is turn 1 of 8. This is switchback 2 of 8. This is like, I don't need this. I don't need this. And everybody that I was passing on my tri bike that they were on road bikes, then were passing me on their road bikes while I was on my tri bike trying to climb the hill. Get all the way up to Blue Ridge Parkway finally and start coming through that. I had a shaded visor on my race helmet, and I'm shooting down the hills, and all of a sudden there's long, sweet bends, and it's in and out of the shade, and I can't see around the corner. And then coming to find like there are potholes that are unmarked in the middle of the road. And luckily I had watched a couple of Facebook videos regarding the watch out for mile this, there's such and such going on. Mile this is watch out for that. And I was doing pretty well. And then I got like my nerves got the best of me, and I just slowed down. I'm like, I want to go to Worlds, but it's not worth crashing over this. And there were a couple of times where I saw emergency personnel helping people. I'm like, I'm just going to slow down. It took me quite a bit. I would say not quite a bit, probably 15 or 20 minutes longer than I anticipated it taking me for this course on the bike. I had 3 bottles of water, and I went through all of them, and I don't normally get through everything. So coming in, I was very thirsty. I remember that. Coming into transition, dropping off my bike, and someone videoing that, and the comment was something about, what did you do? You stop and have crumpets and tea? Because I was taking forever to get my helmet off and my run shoes on, and got out on the run. And I think I was a PR on the run. It was sub 2 hours, like 150-ish, something like that.
I did not internalize that.
But I still finished the whole thing in 5:22, I think, something like that. So it was still a respectable time for that race. I know, here, let me back up, because I skipped the lead into that race.
The morning of?
No.
Or-
The days before. So we had an Airbnb booked that was 15 minutes from the race venue, and they messaged us like, sorry, we have to cancel on you. There was a pipe burst, and we can't have you because the house is not rentable right now. So the next closest place to rent was like an hour away.
In the mountains.
In the mountains on a llama farm.
It was on a llama farm.
So, I mean, that was kind of fun. But so there's that. The T1 was at a park that you had to be bussed into. Spectators couldn't go to. And if you were the runner of a relay, they suggested that you don't go to the swim start because they might not get you back in time for you to be in transition 2 if because of
The
how
bus situation.
the bus situation to get in and out. We had to leave. I think we got up at 1:30 to put me together, and you guys drove through the mountains, through the hills, valleys, whatever, to get us to the bus. I think we left at 2 because we had to be there. I had to be there at 3. So I had all of my transition stuff, all my swim stuff for T1 with me.
There is a hilarious photo that exists of him
Yes.
getting out of the car and going to this bus. Because, we had also had to like get dinner and drive back. At one point, he like was eating dinner in the car on the drive back because the timing was just so screwed up with things. And yeah, we had to wake up at like 1 a.m.
So get on the bus, 3 o'clock. No one. I was the only one from our team that was racing that particular race. Go to transition. I'm not feeling good about the race. Like the water, like I'm still not ready to go. No pre-race swim, warm up, nothing. And leading into that, we had gone to like Smoky Mountain, something which was 50 minutes or an hour the other direction to do an open water swim that had a place where you could swim. And at that point, it was you might have to do without a wetsuit because of the water temp. So I tried doing that, and that freaked me out, something terrible. So anyway, get to what's that?
I do. I forget about that detail.
swim. Because I actually liked that swim. Because we all swam.
Yeah.
We did. Yeah.
And I think I was the only one who had a good swim that day because I actually liked that. They had like a really long buoy line and you could like swim next to it and follow it. Like a rope buoy line, not like a boat buoy line.
I think I like had a mental breakdown during that swim.
One?
Or multiple. It's fine.
I mean, like, I'm poking fun at you, but like, I think you and I were both having some moments on that because I was doing it in a swim skin and a buoy, trying to wrap my head around swimming that far without a wetsuit, without my security blanket. And so that whole morning, like I was just, you get up at 3 o'clock or get on the bus at 3 o'clock, they bus you in and you're there and your transition set up and they got the floodlights because everything is dark. I think I got in.
You're alone. That's too like.
Yeah. So I've got, and the vibes, the nervous tension in the pre-race, pre-swim transition is always a lot. And somehow I was sitting there putting my bike together and I'm looking around and I recognize someone.
Should not be surprising. Oh,
that was not even in like
if
the
anyone
state.
knows Aaron, he'll randomly just like disappear and we're like, where did he go? And he's talking to someone he knows. So this is not shocking to me, actually.
It was to me. So what this was is someone that I used to work with back in Wisconsin had moved to Ohio and was racing that I didn't know was his wife that I recognized because she also worked for the company before they got together. She was volunteering so that she could be there with him because it was one of his first races. So I saw her and I was like, what? And she points over. She's like, Matt's over there. I'm like, what? And I look and I see him and she's yelling at him. And from across probably 3 racks, we each run a different direction to try to get to the end of the rack to go catch up. Mind you, we were never close then, but it was like
a human you knew.
It was a human that I knew, and we went to chatted a little bit. And so I talked to him and he had similar feelings about the race. Then I'm like all the nerves of laying there and having to wait to jump in the water and do this swim. The water's glass flat. I've never done a dock start, so I don't like jump in and try not to go down. I like literally do a pencil dive. So I went way under the water, freaks me out, get going through it, finish it up. And that was probably 39-minute swim. So I was like, still like, I'm doing all right. Get on the bike, get going. We've heard that, finish the race. Other quick story with that is like, I'm standing there waiting for Matt now to finish. And as I'm standing there, the guy walks up next to me that is arm in a sling, raspberries, road rash. And one of the things that I was worried about crashing, he says, he was telling somebody else, he's like, yeah, I remember crashing. And then I remember the paramedics waking me up. Like he goes, I have no idea how long I was out. I'm like, okay, that my fear was not unfounded. Like anyway, right. So we get to the qualifying. There's 75 slots that they're giving out, and it rolls down or it goes all through the normal stuff, number of slots per age group based upon whatever the matrix is of it at the time.
Yeah, Ironman has this very funky back then. They've changed their qualification process, but they have this algorithm because in your brain, you're like, oh, if somebody from 50, 55 doesn't take it, I'll just go to 45 to 50. No, it like has to do with this whole thing. So we're sitting there.
Gender stays in gender.
Yeah, gender stays in gender. We're sitting there like, and it goes through Every slot. And then they go through like women for try as well. So we're
Well,
just like sitting there.
Right. But hold on. It gets to a point where it comes back to my age group. It was 40 to 44 at the time. They're like going through it. Anybody here? Anybody here? And like anybody here left in 40 to 45. And he looks at me and I'm like, he goes, well, get up here. And I'm like, yeah. And I run up there. He goes, you're in. And somebody from behind me comes up and he says, what age group are you in? And he's like 40 to 44. He asked the other guy what place he was. He says 18th. And I was like, have fun at Worlds, because I was 25th. And so I didn't get a slot, but I'm like, I'm just going to hang out like to what
We were like, we're just staying.
I'm going to ask. I'm going to ask, is there any way I can sneak a extra slot? Are you sure? Like, I'm going to ask.
Mm-hmm.
Like, until they're like, no, please leave. Like, until that was the answer, that was what I was going with. So I'm waiting for all of that to go through, because it went through the men's, the women's, then it went trying for women for try, which is another 30 slots or something like that. And because there were more than 30 women that wanted to go, then they had to go through the whole roll down process with that. So that took a while. So I'm hanging out in the middle of that. They're like, oh, wait,
we missed a spot.
And we only gave out 74 of 75 slots. And I'm like, so you're saying there's a chance. So we just sit and we wait. And it goes.
They're like in this tent too, like trying to figure out where this slot goes. And we're all just like,
yeah, because it was like, which age group is it going to go into? Is it going to go in the 18 to 22 or 18 to 24? Is it going to go, like, which slot is it going to go into? And so they're having to do all this like crazy math to like figure out which slot this needs to go into. And we're sitting there, and then there's another family with a kid with like an 18 to 20-year-old that was also sitting there waiting, hoping that the slot was going to go into that age group.
And so in watching all of this happen, and the crowd keeps getting thinner and thinner and thinner as everything goes, because people are like tired of waiting a little bit. And then to
the point of them being tired of waiting, it was like 95 degrees,
straight sun
outside. I was so sunburnt. Like, you could see anybody who was like, screw this, like, not worth waiting. I don't think I have a good chance.
Yeah.
We weren't leaving.
We weren't leaving. So yeah, at one point, at some point when because they're like, all right, the slot goes to here, and there was no one from that age group. So then they had to go back
in this black tent.
They had to go back in the tent, and they had to go through the matrix. And I think they did that at least twice before it came to my age group.
It was like,
and because it came go ahead.
So long, like we're just sitting there. And also, mind you, we're driving back this night. Like, we are headed back home this night too. So we're just like all so tired because we're up at 1 a.m. We know we have to drive. Like, we're all just like depleted. No words are being exchanged, I think, at this point.
Well, I think we were all also in like this like debt, like this could either ultimately be worth it, or we just like sat here in the sun for 4 hours. I don't know if it was that long, but it felt like a long time for no reason. So it's just like this very like just waiting and waiting and waiting. And we had the whole trip was around the singular goal of him getting a slot to Worlds so we could go to Worlds with Rich and Kara.
So yeah, we were going to wait until they were packing up, in which case I may still have tried to buy my way. I'm just kidding. Then in knowing how it had gone through the different roll downs ahead of time, I'm like, the next one is me. And the only guy that came up that was left already has a slot. So it's me. Like, I'm coming to this realization, like it's coming together, but they had to go through the deliberation, the whole thing. And it does come back, and it is me. And I jump up, and the guy, there was like a table, like watching us also. And the guy's like, you better get excited about this.
Right.
Yeah, but like their excitement is watching us watch the roll down. I go up there, claim my spot. The guy who had previously, that was in 18th place, who took that slot, comes up. He goes, I'm really happy for you. I'm like, it means a lot. Like, that's what the sport, like, he had no business, no reason to hang out.
Right.
He literally hung out just to see whether or not I would get a spot. And that was pretty fucking cool.
Yeah.
Which, I don't know, like, but I think I jumped like 3 feet in the air.
Oh, yeah. Because it was like, we knew it was coming. And I think at that point too, we're like, if you don't make it known that you are taking this spot,
but that was crazy. We went to the race. It was my first
We're going to tell the world story today.
No, I was just going to say
Oh,
that was my first official full 70.3 race, and I qualified for Worlds, which also is pretty crazy considering 2 years prior, I couldn't put my face in the water.
point being, you can start out below average and make it to above average.
In 2 short years. But so, yeah,
There's like so many things that we get to talk about in this part too, because that's just like the cusp of the things that Aaron's done since like figuring out how to race this sport. So there's more to come, folks.
Yeah, I think we'll have to do a worlds episode. Maybe if we're real lucky, we could get Rich to come and Logan even. If we could do Rich, Logan,
Ooh.
Maggie, Aaron, and do a whole worlds thing, that would be super cool. So if any of you listening to this, we know Maggie will listen, but any of the rest of you who happen to listen to this, we're putting you on notice.
Stay tuned for Average Age Groupers World Edition. Any last thoughts?
I think that's what I have for now.
In this, we didn't cover what's coming up for Aaron. So Aaron is going to race Unbound with me coming up this summer. He did Oceanside with Maggie back in March. So we haven't gotten to that yet for him. And he's doing Lake Placid in July. So still plenty of things on the docket for you for this year. So we'll have to unpack all of those things at a later date. But you might end up on the next episode, which I think will be our Unbound sort of debrief, I'm guessing.
Yeah, and I was informed today that I may have to pace Jim to his sub 2 hour half marathon.
Yes, but that would be in November, so we got some time.
We got time.
Maybe one more shot at qualifying for Worlds for 2027, but we can cover that in another episode.
Another episode. You know the gist, people. Like, subscribe, share, tell your friends.
Tell your mom, leave a comment.
Share on your Insta story. Slide into our DMs.
We have a Substack now. I did figure out how to get all of the podcast episodes onto Substack, as well as kind of blog debriefs for every episode. So if you're kind of the person who likes to read the recaps, those are all available on Substack. So you can also subscribe over there as well.
Oh my gosh. Should we have Aaron send us out since Maggie's not here?
Yeah.
Do you know how to do this?
Okay, bye.
The best part of it.